What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that we have been eagerly anticipating, because every time this band puts out an album, I'm like, yay! This band's put out an album. I know I sound like I'm underselling it there, but I really love this band, and I've become a huge fan of them over the years. We are going to go over the latest offering from Satan. Songs in Crimson. This also comes out on the 13th of September on Metal Blade Records. This band formed in 1979 in England. Now, despite that, this is only their 7th full length. There was a period after their second album where they broke up, reformed as a different band, broke up as that band, reformed as a different band, broke up again, reformed as that second different band, and then in 2011 reformed as Satan, and this would be their 5th album since. I have been into them since their debut album, Caught in the Act. It's absolutely awesome, essential heavy metal listening. And I actually went over their last album, Earth Infernal, which was a year-ender for me when it dropped. So needless to say, the hype was huge for this band, and for those that don't know, this is flat-out old-school heavy metal, but with kind of like their own signature on it, and we'll definitely go into that more.
Although this is my first review of this band, Nick got me into them with their last album, Earth Infernal, which I thought was an absolute banger. These guys are a ton of fun. Even saying that doesn't really put that out there as to how much fun they are, but I really enjoy the shit out of this band. They are a definite good time.
And what I think was really cool is when they did reform in 2011, there weren't any new faces. Like, you had the classic lineup from Caught in the Act all come back, and it has been that way since their return. And I would say pretty much they've been like just grossly consistent from album to album. And they're one of these bands where they have a specific sound and they don't necessarily deliver like a tremendous amount of variety in terms of their albums from album to album. It's like, yeah, this 100% sounds like Satan, but because they have their own kind of like unique spin on classic NWOBHM, like classic heavy metal, they really don't need to do anything else to kind of broaden their sound, because I think they kind of carved out their own little niche in that genre. And once again, that is on display. This album is 100% pure, unadulterated Satan. And that's like a glowing review already in multiple ways. But it does what this band does, and breaking down their sound, I mean, for me, it comes down to the riff work. The riff work is like unmistakably them. They're weird, like chord progressions. Because, you know, it does what heavy metal does. Like, you know, you got fast up-tempo songs, gallops, D-beats, lots of soaring guitar harmonies, lead trade-offs. Steve Ramsey and Russ Tippins are just an incredible tandem of guitarists. You have big soaring vocals from Brian Ross. But there's this thing they do in terms of like chord progressions and using, I don't know, like just like the melody you didn't think they would go after on that next progression.
Yeah, because you think you know where they're going. I mean, you know, when you listen to thousands of bands, you know, you think you know where they're going with their sound, and then it takes a completely different path, and oftentimes will weirdly harmonize it as well, just to throw you off guard even more. And that kind of gives it this uniquely, like, sinister effect to it, although I wouldn't call any of this straight up, like, dark and heavy like you would, you know, most things we review. Songs like Whore of Babylon and Curse in Disguise, both of those songs, I would say, have fairly sinister riffs in them. They pick a lower register to go in, and then the riffs just descend kind of to hell, because it's, you know, Satan.
Yeah, when you compare this to their contemporaries like, you know, Iron Maiden, Angel Witch, Diamond Head, stuff like that, they notably sound different just because of, like, the notes they choose. That even goes as far as, like, Brian Ross's vocal deliveries. Yes, he soars and wails occasionally, but he has, like, more of this, like, mid-register singing voice that he hangs out in, and he frequently kind of does like something that's more akin to like epic doom metal, where instead of like taking that higher road and making it soar a little bit more, he likes to go a little bit down and kind of make it sound a little bit spooky.
Like Candlemass almost, but not quite the same sound. Like, it's tough to describe.
And I've always described this band as almost a proto-thrash band. Like, if you listen to Caught in the Act, it's on par in terms of speed and aggression with a lot of early thrash. Like, you can definitely pull some stuff off of there that is comparable to like early Exodus, early Metallica, maybe even a little bit of early Slayer too. And that is still very much a part of their sound, but they kind of broadened it a little bit just in terms of like, you know, interesting grooves, melodies, weird guitar effects, and once again, just uniquely catchy melodies. Like, this band has oddly like Voivod vibes, but it's still straight up heavy metal. Like there's really like nothing too flashy about it overall. Like it still does everything that heavy metal bands generally do, especially the old guard. But again, there's this kind of weird thing about them where, you know, like the note choices make them sound a little bit different. And, you know, in terms of song structure, some of the transitions are a little bit more odd and off kilter, but they work in the songs. That isn't to say they can't deliver just a straight up catchy hook though. Martyrdom in particular is probably one of the more straightforward songs on here, and it is just a hook right from the rip. The crawling lead melody that comes in and it complements the riff, it's instantly infectious, and then the vocals come in and it just comes in with this absolutely catchy chorus too. There's a lot of catchy choruses on here, but this song is, again, like a little bit more straightforward. It's up-tempo, it's got a good gallop to it, and it doesn't kind of mill about with a lot of riff changes. It really just kind of lays on this melody. There's even like some fun like slide guitar melodies and harmonies behind the, you know, actual riffs. And all of it is very catchy and surprisingly upbeat for a song about killing yourself.
Sure.
You know, that's the Satan charm. They can do that.
Era, The Day Will Come kind of has that same effect. That is instantly hooky. That riff right off the bat, there is no escaping it. In fact, they repeat that melody several times. And there's a lot of fun stuff that happens in that song, too. And speaking of thrash as well, I kind of got Megadeth vibes out of there for just a moment. But the vocal trades in there are really fun, too. And a car horn.
It sounds like a car horn, but I think it's a guitar effect. But it's the effect of, like, you know, hearing someone, like, lay on their horn as they drive past you because you're hanging out like an idiot in the middle of the road drunk. May not have happened. I don't know. I can't really say.
I plead the fifth.
But yeah, it has that kind of like weird Doppler effect for a second. And I don't know, like, I feel like it kind of revs up the song like it's bearing down on you. And then, you know, it just kind of goes right back into the hooks, which, man, again, the guitar work in here is just so damn catchy. And I wouldn't necessarily call it like technical, but the interplay and just like how the guitars sort of like feed off of one another, I think is just remarkable on here.
And the bass player too, man. That bass player is on top of his game. A bunch of wild runs and a bunch of really sick grooves that you wouldn't expect to be in here because of the musical presentation. Like most of this is just riffy, very thrashy at times, and a lot of just NWOBHM. But in the song Truth Bullet, there's a really cool drum and bass groove that's almost proggy.
It's this weird swing that comes in, like they kind of introduce this main riff. It's instantly catchy. Big surprise.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of chugs its way in. It sounds dark and menacing. And then it takes this weird turn into like almost sort of like a acid rock swing or something. Yeah. And then you hear all these smooth, buttery bass lines like, ooh, what the hell? My hips are moving now.
Good. I didn't know I could still move like this.
I mean, a lot of people would say Satan lurks in the pelvis. Another thing that really kind of cements all this too is the production. The production is like very analog sounding. It's kind of gritty. Like you hear a lot of squawky tones come out, but it sounds natural. Like everything on here sounds like exactly what you would get live. This is just like the crowd sound removed from the recording.
Yep.
It's a band jamming and having fun. And that's kind of the main thing I get in this. All these songs sound like they're fun to play. Like they just kind of were like, yeah, wasn't this fun? What were we talking about here? Like death, dying, and murder. And again, this band's sound, it's hard to describe in one way because, again, it is very traditional in terms of the fact that it does everything that I love about classic heavy metal. But at the same time, they have kind of their unique signature on it to the point where they really do stand out from the rest of the pack. It's that unique approach to like all their songwriting with their, again, like unique harmonies and, you know, wild vocals that really gives it like its own thing that honestly I feel like I can only get from this band. Like Turn the Tide. Turn the Tide is honestly like kind of Satan in a fucking bottle right there, like in terms of like everything I like about them. Big, thrashy, aggressive riffs right out of the gate. Like, it's notably just like, yeah, that's not necessarily heavy metal. That's just like flat out thrash. But when you get down to the chorus, it's this big heavy metal anthem. It's got these really solid hooks in it. I think Brian even like wails a couple of times just to show off his 69-year-old vocals. And the fact that he still has that register in his voice, which is incredible. But yeah, this band kind of thrives in stuff that is slightly outside of, the NWOBHM sandbox and stuff that is within it. Like Curse in Disguise, that song might be one of the most fun ones on the album just because it's loaded with frequent riff changes. It builds really well. The main riff is just instantly catchy, but I love the fact that they save the thrashier moment for the chorus. The chorus has this big soaring hook, but it's over like thrashier riffs and, faster D-beat drums. But of course, they're also loaded with like giant, classic heavy metal harmonies everywhere because it's heavy metal, you kind of need it. But they'll also, again, like kind of drift outside of that, like Captives. Captives, it has this kind of sleazy blues rock swagger. Like, it's almost like Motorhead in a little way, but honestly, like, when you get down to like the leads, when they isolate the riffs, it kind of has like a little bit of like, I don't know, like ZZ Top circa Fandango. Granted, it's a little bit faster and it's got like, like a heavy metal sort of drive to it, but the riffs themselves are kind of like bluesy and dirty sounding.
It's like if ZZ Top was a thrash band, which sounds weird to say, but it's true. And then it's not without its straight up heavy moments, dude. Deadly Crimson, it's not death metal, but there's some definite heavy riffing going on in there. And a straight up breakdown. Like almost. Like it's a halftime groove, but they really rock their balls off on that song.
Honestly, if this band took a shift more towards like death metal and thrash entirely and kind of dialed back a bit of the heavy metal flair, they'd sound a lot like Deceased, I think.
Yeah.
As for any negatives about this, I mean, all right, I suppose one negative is if you own any Satan album pretty much since they've reunited, this will sound familiar. It sounds kind of like everything they've put out. I mean, I think every album cover has also been Eliran Kantor's artwork. There's another one. It's awesome. But to me, again, that's not a problem because even within NWOBHM, Satan has a unique sound. But I like that about them because there's really no need for them to change because, again, they've carved out their own niche within heavy metal here. So there's really no need to change and they don't feel pressed to do that. They are simply executing what they do at a high level once again. I will say that a couple of vocal harmonies didn't quite hit early on in the album. I want to say it was maybe Horror Babylon or Era. Some of the backup vocals that are on there didn't quite match up with Ross. It felt a little awkward at times, but pretty much most of this, like, I think the vocals are absolutely awesome. Brian's still got a hell of a voice overall. But yeah, there were a couple of melodies that didn't quite hit as hard. But outside of that, man, I'd be hard-pressed to find much on here that I flat out didn't like.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I really don't have anything. It's only 10 songs. It could have been 15. I would have allowed that. As far as those vocal harmonies that you said didn't hit, if you look at this from the perspective, from a band that you could compare in a lot of ways to Voivod as far as both song structure and odd melodies and just weird shit happening, then those out-of-place vocal harmonies, I suppose, would still hit if you look at it from that perspective. But I really, to be honest with you, don't have any complaints at all. This record is a banger. And because of that, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. This record is wildly fun, very energetic. The vocals are epic. The guitar riffs are awesome. It's just packed with loads and loads of fun, catchy moments. Like, from beginning to end, really, there's not a single song that you can't dive into and go, yeah, that's grooving. Yeah, that's catchy. Ooh, that's fun. There's a bunch of odd harmonies and weird progressions. Outstanding bass work and riff work, for that matter. Like, I don't know, it's just a ton of fun. For a band named Satan, you're never really sure what you're getting into because, Satan has many facets. But this band just, again, a ton of fun, groovy, heavy at times, wildly catchy. Martyrdom, in particular, inescapably hooky. And that riff will get stuck in your head. It's been in my head since we started this review. It was in my head right after we finished the record. I'm probably going to wake up with it in my mind, to be honest. If you're a big fan of bands like Queens of the Stone Age, which I think is a really, really, really comparable thing, Mastodon, Voivod, Iron Maiden, Journey, and a little bit of Black Sabbath, you're probably going to really dig this. I would highly recommend checking it out.
That is quite a hodgepodge of bands there. Yep. But honestly, like, there's a little bit that is true about all of those. I am going to go with a very strong 4. Could grow to a 4.5. I don't know if it's as good as Earth Infernal because that album was so damn good. This one, I mean, it's checking off a lot of the fucking right boxes, I'll be honest. Dude, Satan rolls. And so does this band. But, yeah, like, this band is just doing everything that I would want them to do here. Like, I get the unique harmonies, the crazy vocals, and it's just infectiously catchy, but again, in its own way. In a way that, like, Iron Maiden isn't catchy. Like, I don't think Iron Maiden can pull this off, especially right now, because all these songs would be, like, 18 minutes long, and they wouldn't be as cool. I like when they step outside of that, like, heavy metal formula they have, like, again, the sleazier riffs that are on Captives, or, like, you know, thrashier riffs on Turn the Tide. But honestly, I think they just do their sound super well, and again, I don't think there's any reason for them to change, because they do their sound so well, and no one else is really doing what they do in their, you know, genre, their subset or whatever. If you're a classic heavy metal fan, I mean, well, you probably already checked out this. I totally get it. I did too. And you were probably stoked, like I was. But if you have never heard this band, and again, you love just like, again, Iron Maiden, Diamond Head, Angel Witch, and again, like Voivod, I would say like Spirit Adrift too, a little bit. Just classic heavy metal, but with like its own, you know, kind of spooky flavor. Like, it isn't quite like Merciful Fate yet, but it's like right on the edge between like Merciful Fate and Iron Maiden, I guess. I don't know. This band's awesome. Check out this album, and if you like it, just go ahead and check out the rest of them, because I'm reasonably sure you'll become a fan. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also in our channel up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below where Satan rules.
As always, tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, album reviews, much like this one, discography rankings, states of metal, is it not metal, a whole slew of discussion forums, Nick's never-ending collection updates, and just, yeah, fun stuff, because that's what we do at Thralls of Metal, and we do it all for you guys. We appreciate all of our subscribers, our family, our friends, everybody that's helped make this into something a whole lot bigger than we ever thought it would be. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. It's been amazing doing this, and we're looking forward to overloading you guys with more content. So one more big thank you because of all your awesomenesses, and we will catch you later.